Hi, I'm Nikki Lowe, and welcome to the Wisdom for Working Mums podcast show, where I share insights and interviews that support women to combine their family, work, and life in a more successful and sustainable way. Welcome to this episode, and today I'm going to be diving into the topic of busyness addiction. And it's a topic that I was reminded of recently as I found myself caught up in a busyness cycle and really struggled to unhook myself from it. And it's something I used to fall into quite a lot, but I thought I'd healed my addiction to busyness. But it seems I've still got work to do. And it's a poignant reminder that it's all too easy to get caught up in busyness. And one of the things that I've learned from doing this podcast over the last few years is the more I share about my lived experience as a working mother, the more useful you find it as my listener. It's like sharing honestly and authentically with a trusted friend. So, my friend, let's dive into this. If you find yourself caught in the whirlwind of constant busyness, it's time to recognize the signs that you might be addicted to a frenetic lifestyle. So if you're sitting listening, grab your favourite drink, find a cosy spot, or if you're listening on the go, take a breath and let's get started. Busyness addiction refers to the compulsive need to stay busy and constantly fill our schedules, even when it becomes detrimental to our well-being. And as working mothers, we often face that unique pressure and responsibilities of juggling our careers, family life, and personal needs. And I think the societal expectation to do it all can lead to a mindset where busyness is seen as almost a badge of honour, or it just becomes our way of being in the world. But as we know, it can also lead to burnout and a sense of overwhelm. And I'm not an addiction specialist, so I'm not here to formally diagnose you, but really merely to raise your awareness of where you might have an unhealthy relationship with busyness. So how then do we know if we're caught up in busyness or if we're simply living a full and healthy life? And it's a question I constantly come back to, as I think the lines between these two can get blurred really easily, and it can be difficult to know the difference. Just because we have many things going on doesn't necessarily mean we're in a busyness addiction, but it's easy to tip over into that. And let me give you an example as someone who is familiar with being addicted to busyness. Over a recent weekend, I had a to-do list as long as my arm. We've had a really busy time recently as a family, weekends away, children's birthday parties, children's clubs and activities, and holidays over half term. And it's really meant that our house admin has been neglected. Combined with a really busy month work-wise, I came into that weekend feeling like I'd got this massive backlog that I desperately needed to catch up on. And we were due to go out for a family meal late on the Sunday afternoon. And I woke up on the Sunday morning with like this adrenaline-filled determination to complete my to-do list. And it's a feeling that I know all too well. So I set my alarm really early to get up to get some work admin done before my children woke up. I then bounced from house admin to house admin, and I could feel my stress levels rising, and I could feel myself competing against the clock. And when my daughter asked if I could sit and colour in with her, I was too stuck in my busyness mode to say yes, and I'm really ashamed to say that. And that's when I knew I was in an unhelpful busyness cycle. I kind of call it my superwoman mode, and that's not because it's a heroine or something to be admired. It's because I think I'm superhuman when I'm stuck in that mode, and that I can achieve really unrealistic expectations. And I don't know if you can relate to that. To me, busyness differs from a full life by how it impacts you. When life is full, you are consciously choosing, and you have the psychological flexibility to choose freely what you want and don't want to do. You feel kind of happy most of the time, or at least content or in flow. And when life is full, you're growing and it kind of feels good. And you might get into bed at night feeling tired, but it's that kind of fulfilled, tired feeling. But when you're stuck in a busyness addiction, you can feel like you're just keeping up. You feel like you can't stop, take a break, or slow down. And many days you're probably exhausted, overwhelmed, and kind of feeling on that burnout cycle. And even if you enjoy a lot of what you're doing, you will still feel something deep down telling you this is not what life is all about. But also you feel like you don't have a choice but to be busy. You almost become so fused to the need to be busy. And that term fused, I think, is quite important here, because cognitive fusion is a term that's used to describe when we are so tightly stuck to our thoughts, we become fused to them. And when we're experiencing cognitive fusion, we can't separate ourselves from our thoughts. Our thoughts become our reality, and we don't have the flexibility or choice. We become really rigid in our approach. And going back to that Sunday, I could really feel that. So when my daughter asked me if I could colour with her, I was so fused to getting through my to-do list. It wasn't even an option to sit with her, even though that's really important to me. So I wanted to give you 7 signs that highlight a potential addiction to busyness. And sign number 1 is constantly feeling overwhelmed. If you find yourself always rushing from one task to another, feeling like there's never enough time, and experiencing that constant self of overwhelm, it could be a sign that busyness has taken over your life. Sign number 2 is that you feel guilty when you're not busy. So if you ever feel guilty or uneasy when you have moments of downtime, or perhaps the idea of being unproductive almost makes you anxious, if you struggle with the guilt or restlessness when you're not constantly being busy, that's a strong potential sign that you're addicted to the busyness cycle. You almost don't know what to do if you're not busy, or you feel these uncomfortable emotions from not being busy. Sign number 3 is that you're neglecting your self-care and personal needs. When your schedule is jam-packed, it's easy, really easy, we know this, to put our own well-being on the back burner. So if you're constantly finding yourself, or consistently finding yourself, sacrificing self-care or neglecting your own needs because you're too busy, that's a sign that you need to reassess your priorities. And I'm not just talking about the yoga class. It can be not drinking enough water, not going to the toilet when your body needs you to, or being so busy that you forget to eat your lunch. Sign number 4 is your inability to say no or set boundaries. Are you the go-to person for taking on extra tasks, maybe in your work or personal life? If feeling no feels impossible for you and you constantly find yourself overwhelmed by commitments, it's a potential sign that you're caught in the busyness addiction trap. Sign number 5 is that you're seeking validation through productivity. And this is where you might be measuring your self-worth based on how much you accomplish or how busy you are. If you find yourself constantly seeking external validation or approval through your productivity, firstly, know you're not alone. But secondly, see that as an indication that busyness potentially has become an addiction for you. Sign number 6 is feeling empty in moments of free time. You know, when you finally have a break or some downtime, do you feel that sense of emptiness? As we said earlier, do you struggle to relax and enjoy leisure time because you feel like something important is being missed? It's a sign that busyness may have become your default state. And sign number 7 is that you're experiencing physical symptoms of chronic stress, because busyness addiction can take a toll on our physical health. So if you're experiencing chronic fatigue, frequent headaches, difficulty sleeping, or other physical symptoms, it's a potential red flag that your busy lifestyle is affecting your well-being. So if you can relate to some of those signs, firstly, you're not alone. But what can you do? So what can you do if you relate to those signs? Well, the first step is awareness. We say in coaching that awareness is curative, meaning that awareness alone can help make a positive shift. The second thing to do if you find yourself caught up in a busyness cycle is to drop anchor. Dropping anchor is like a boat that's coming into harbour in a storm. The anchor stops it being swept away in the storm. And dropping anchor stops you from being swept away by the busyness storm. And dropping anchor won't make the storm go away. So your to-do list still might be screaming at you. Your responsibilities don't just disappear. But by dropping anchor, you will hold steady until the storm passes. It gives you awareness and choice about how you engage with the storm. And it can help you to navigate the difficult thoughts, feelings, emotions as you think about your to-do list. So dropping anchor might look or sound like focusing on your breath, or stretching, or taking some deep breathing. It could be around looking around the room, listening to sounds in the room, going for a walk in nature. It's practicing mindfulness and being present in the moment can actually help you to drop that anchor and unhook from the need to be constantly busy. Then the third step is to connect to your values. Get clear on what's most important to you. That can really guide your thinking, behaviour and choices in those moments when the busyness cycle just wants to grab you and suck you in. And if I'd done that on that Sunday in question, I would have realised that sitting colouring with my daughter was far more important than cleaning the kitchen floor. The final step, so the fourth and final step, is then to focus on calming your nervous system. And this is an ongoing journey for me. According to Dr. Paul Gilbert, and he created compassion-based therapy, and I had the kind of privilege of going to see him in London and learning from him, and his insights in this area are really powerful. And Dr. Paul Gilbert talks about us having 3 regulation systems in our body: the drive system, the threat system, and the soothing system. And the drive system is all about getting stuff done, and it's about acquiring resources. And it comes from our kind of primitive days where we had to go out and find food and find shelter. So we are hardwired to feel focused and ambitious and conscientious. And when we do that, we get this dopamine hit, and the dopamine hit fuels us with the feel good of, oh, we want to get more of this because it feels good. The threat system is all about avoiding danger and protecting us, basically keeping us safe. And we feel anxious, fearful and worried when we're stuck in our threat system, and the body produces adrenaline. And thirdly, the soothing system is designed to help us to manage stress and bond with others. And it's that kind of feeling of contentment, safety, trust and connection. And in that state, our body produces oxytocin and opiates, so like the really feel-good hormones. The issue is that most of us bounce between our drive and threat systems most days, wanting to get that dopamine hit of achieving stuff and then feeling stressed when we're running out of time. So many of us actually need to reset our nervous systems by bringing in moments of soothing. So resetting your nervous system so that you aren't bouncing between your drive and threat system is really important, bringing you into that parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. And that will help you to respond rather than react in those challenging situations. And maybe it's about consciously connecting to your breath, but also touch can be a great way to stimulate the soothing system. Things like massage or reflexology really help tap into those hormones of oxytocin and opiates. That's why it feels so good for somebody to kind of massage us, or why I absolutely love reflexology. But also spending time in nature, or focusing on a word as you're breathing that's soothing, such as kind of saying calm or peace to yourself, or listening to calming music. Because the issue is that the hormone of dopamine, that drive, that hormone is the never enough hormone. There's never going to be enough that you can achieve that gives you enough of a feeling of dopamine. It just makes us want to go back for more and more and more. And that's why things like social media can be so addictive, because we're constantly looking for the next dopamine hit. And that's what can really help us. That's what can really hook us when we're stuck in this busyness addiction. We're looking to get stuff done and get that dopamine hit, but it's never going to be enough. So I hope those 7 signs of busyness addiction were useful to explore. And as you reflect on them, that those 4 steps to unhook yourself from the busyness addiction really help you to focus on practical things you can do to support yourself. And I'm all for embracing ruthless prioritization over relentless productivity. I'll say that again. Let's embrace ruthless prioritization over relentless productivity. And perhaps let's have a busyness detox together. What's the stuff that we can just drop at the moment? The balls that will bounce, because our current culture will always draw us towards busyness. And as you know, if you're a regular listener to this podcast, my favourite quote is from Ian Thomas. And he says, "And every day the world will drag you by the hand yelling, 'This is important, and this is important, and this is important. You need to worry about this and this and this.' And each day, it's up to you to yank your hand back, put it on your heart, and say, 'No, this is what's important.'" Because remember, life is to be lived, not just endured. We're meant to have those moments of stillness and to find joy in the simplicity and to create a life that allows us to thrive, not just survive. So thanks for joining me for this conversation. I hope these insights have been helpful in shedding light on the busyness addiction. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who also might benefit from breaking free from the busyness addiction. Until next time, take care. If you've enjoyed this episode of Wisdom for Working Mums, please share it on social media and with your friends and family. I'd love to connect with you too, so if you head over to wisdomforworkingmums.co.uk, you'll find a link on how to do this. And if you love the show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review and subscribe. You'll be helping another working mum find this resource too. Thanks so much for listening.